Imagine this. The absolute tranquility of nowhere is completely shattered in an instant. Out of nowhere, this incredibly powerful, golden being named Adam Warlock just crashes into the settlement, and he leaves absolute destruction in his wake. Worst of all, he critically wounds Rocket. So the Guardians are left completely scrambling in the aftermath, right? They're desperately trying to heal their friend, only to discover a terrifying truth hidden inside him. This one single act of violence sets off a totally urgent, desperate mission, pushing the entire team to their absolute limits just to save the life of the friend who really holds them all together.
Now, the guy orchestrating this whole tragedy is the High Evolutionary. And look, he's not your run-of-the-mill tyrant seeking galactic domination. He operates with this chilling, massive god complex. He's driven by this twisted motivation to forcefully evolve species into what he believes is a flawless utopia. To him, the creatures he makes, they're literally just aesthetic experiments. They're just clumps of biological matter to be transformed. If they exhibit any flaws, like say unregulated anger or violence, he simply incinerates them and starts all over. It is a terrifying pursuit of perfection without a single ounce of empathy.
Because of this insane obsession with control, the Guardians are suddenly slapped with a massive ticking clock crisis. When they try to use standard medpacks on Rocket, they actually trigger a kill switch that's embedded deep inside him. It turns out he's considered proprietary technology by this company called OrgoCorp, marked as just Subject 89P13. The team quickly realizes they have, at most, 48 hours to save him, but they absolutely cannot operate without an override passkey. So it's an impossible situation. If they don't operate, he dies. If they operate without the key, he dies.
The sheer desperation here forces the team into a frantic heist. I mean, they literally have to break into OrgoCorp's headquarters to get that passkey. And this isn't a normal corporate facility. It's bioformed. The whole place is grown entirely from living, fleshy matter and is heavily guarded by these things called orgosentries. The Guardians' plan? Well, first, they have to secure infiltration uniforms from the Ravagers, systematically jam 3 completely impenetrable plasmic security shields, and physically breach a decompression chamber, all just to get to the records department inside. And to make things even harder, the infiltration is complicated by some massive emotional friction. Peter Quill is really struggling because he's forced to work alongside an alternate timeline Gamora to pull this heist off. Remember, this Gamora has absolutely zero memory of their shared past or their deep love. While the old Gamora was driven by a higher calling to help people, this version? She's a hardened Ravager motivated purely by a 100,000-unit payout. She just views the Guardians as total strangers, and she repeatedly rejects Peter's heartbroken attempts to connect with her.
Now, while his friends are out there risking absolutely everything, Rocket is just fading. His mind is slipping back to his tragic origins at OrgoCorp. We find out he was part of Batch 89, which was a group of early cybergenetic experiments. The High Evolutionary viewed Rocket and his batchmates as nothing more than a medley of mistakes. They were disposable stepping stones, just used to figure out the evolutionary process for future generations. They were subjected to agonizing physical modifications, locked in dirty cages, and completely at the mercy of their creator.
But you know, even in those horrific conditions, a heartbreakingly beautiful bond forms right there in the cage. Rocket finds real solace with his fellow altered animals. They actually claim their own identities, naming themselves Lilla, Teefs, Floor, and Rocket. Together, they dream of this day when the High Evolutionary will take them to his promised new world. They imagine building great flying machines and soaring together into what they call the forever and beautiful sky. It really is this pure, innocent friendship forged in the absolute darkest of places.
So that brings us to a huge question. Why is the High Evolutionary so obsessed with recapturing Rocket in the first place? Well, at OrgoCorp, the Guardians discover that Rocket wasn't just some failed experiment. His brain functioned at an unprecedented level. Across hundreds of years of creating things, Rocket is the only subject who has ever demonstrated the capacity for true original invention. The High Evolutionary desperately needs Rocket's unique brain to fix the violent, unpredictable tendencies in his newer, supposedly perfect societies.
And it's that exact unique brilliance that leads to literally the most tragic turning point in Rocket's life. He actually successfully identified and solved a complex cytoplasmic filtration issue that was causing violent rage in the High Evolutionary's newer batch of creatures. But instead of getting that reward of the new world, the High Evolutionary was just disgusted that a monster outsmarted him, so he ordered all of Batch 89 to be incinerated. Rocket frantically built a keycard to orchestrate a jailbreak, but they were caught. In the chaos that followed, Lila, Teefs, and Floor were ruthlessly murdered, leaving Rocket to violently escape completely alone. All right, jumping back to the present, the Guardians realize something awful. The passkey they desperately need isn't at OrgoCorp at all. It was actually downloaded by one of the High Evolutionary's recorders, who happens to be with him on a planet called Counter-Earth. They know for a fact the High Evolutionary is expecting them, and that flying directly to him is almost certainly a trap. But as Peter points out, it's a face-off they just have to take. So they lock in the coordinates, choosing to risk absolutely everything against a being 1,000 times more powerful than them.
When they actually get to Counter-Earth, what they find is a deeply unsettling society. It's a near replica of Earth, populated entirely by bioengineered Animen. The High Evolutionary created it to be a utopia, taking the art and culture of Earth, but supposedly stripping away the ignorance. Yet as the Guardians look around, they see a society still plagued by the exact same bigotry, anger, and drug use. Deeming this experiment a total failure too, the High Evolutionary decides to just ruthlessly annihilate the entire planet and everyone on it, just to start over.
The extraction from Counter-Earth is absolute, pure chaos. I mean, the planet is literally starting to explode right around them. Quill and Groot have to hurl themselves from the High Evolutionary's departing ship, nearly dying in the freezing vacuum of space before Gamora miraculously catches them in the escape craft. They manage to successfully retrieve the recorder's passkey, and just as Rocket flatlines and envisions joining his lost friends in the sky, they override the kill switch and shock him back to life just in the nick of time.
From there, the story rockets toward this massive emotional climax when the team infiltrates the High Evolutionary ship one last time. Rocket finally confronts his creator face-to-face. After years of running from what he is, Rocket fully accepts the identity he used to deny, proudly declaring himself Rocket Raccoon. And in a truly defining moment, after severely beating the tyrant who tortured him, Rocket chooses not to deal the killing blow. He spares his creator's life simply because, in his own words, he is a guardian of the galaxy.
But wait, the mission isn't over yet. The High Evolutionary ship is going down, and it's filled with hundreds of caged, genetically modified children and animals. It turns into this frantic, breathless rescue operation. Kraglin and Cosmo use massive telekinesis to actually hold Nowhere and the sinking ship together. Meanwhile, Drax, Nebula, and Mantis are fighting off waves of monstrous defenders. The Guardians refuse to leave a single person behind, risking their own lives to evacuate every single higher and lower life form across the makeshift bridge to safety.
So, with everyone finally safe on Nowhere, the original team faces an inevitable turning point. Earlier, Drax had told Peter that his habit of leaping from woman to woman was like jumping between lily pads, and that he ultimately needed to just learn how to swim. Well, Peter really takes this to heart. Realizing he's been running from his grief since he was 8 years old, he officially steps down. He returns to Earth to finally reunite with the grandfather he left behind decades ago.
And it's not just Peter. The rest of the crew also realize it's time to follow their own true callings, and they amicably disband the original roster. Mantis, who has spent her whole life serving Ego and then the Guardians, departs on her own to discover what she truly wants. Drax accepts that he was born to be a father rather than a destroyer, so he stays behind with Nebula to build a proper home and society for all those rescued children on Nowhere. And Rocket steps up, assuming the title of Captain to lead a brand new generation of Guardians.
We're ultimately left with a really powerful reflection on identity and connection here. When we finally stop running from the traumas that originally defined us, we open ourselves up to incredible possibilities. Whether it's confronting our darkest memories, returning to our roots, or stepping into a leadership role we never even felt worthy of, this whole journey asks us, what new families and what beautiful new purposes are we truly capable of building out there in the universe?